Why are the most powerful, influential, and competent people in any field almost never the ones with the most impressive degrees? It's because they've discovered a secret that schools are designed to hide from you. In this video, I will show you how to transcend the limitations of modern education by applying the ancient Japanese principles of deep. Study a path of absolute mastery. You will learn how to build a mind that is not just filled with information, but forged in intelligence. If you are ready to stop consuming and start mastering, this is your blueprint. Let's begin by dismantling the myth of credentials. Section 1. The myth of credentials. Why do we worship university degrees like they are the only path to success? Think about the most powerful people you know in your field. Are they all holding shiny diplomas from famous schools? Actually, the answer is often no. Most of them learned their craft in the trenches of reality, not in a classroom. This is the uncomfortable truth that society keeps quiet. We are taught to believe that a piece of paper defines our intelligence. But in the real world, credentials are just a signal. They show you can follow rules and pass tests. They do not show that you can solve impossible problems. Have you ever noticed that a degree can sometimes make a person feel like their learning is finally finished? It is a dangerous trap, because the moment you think you know enough, your growth hits a hard ceiling. This is why many credentialed experts fail when they face a brand new, complex challenge. They rely on old frameworks. Meanwhile, the true masters are constantly rewriting the rules. They don't wait for permission to learn. They take complete responsibility for their own education. And that, my friend, is where real power begins. Tell me, do you think our modern obsession with degrees is actually holding back true innovation? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. Section 2. The trap of modern consumption. Now let's talk about how you learn today. Be honest with yourself. How many books did you buy this year? How many online courses did you sign up for, but never actually finish? We live in an age of endless content. It feels good to click buy or enroll. It feels like we are making progress. But is this really learning? I call this the consumption trap. We treat information like fast food. We consume it quickly, we feel full for a moment, but then we forget it all. We scroll through articles and watch video essays, believing that passing information through our eyes is the same as understanding. It is not. Real knowledge is not about how much you consume. It is about how much you retain and apply. When you just consume, you are a passenger in your own life. You are letting someone else decide what is important. You are letting someone else frame the truth for you. This makes you shallow. It makes you a collector of facts, not a thinker of thoughts. Most people who try to educate themselves fail here. They think that more is better. They think that speed is a sign of intelligence. But deep understanding does not happen at high speed. It requires patience. It requires the courage to stop reading and start thinking. Are you ready to stop being a consumer of content and start being an architect of your own knowledge? Because the next step is where we change everything. Section 3. Principles over methods. Most people are constantly searching for a shortcut. They want a hack or a new app to fix their learning. But here is the secret that the Japanese tradition has taught for centuries. It is not about the tool. It is about the relationship you build with knowledge. If you look at the history of Japanese craft, you see something fascinating. It is not about memorizing 1,000 tricks. It is about understanding the fundamental principles that govern the work. Think about a master swordmaker or a tea ceremony expert. They do not switch their methods every time they see a new trend. They focus on the core principles. They go deeper into the basics than anyone else could imagine. When you understand the core, everything else becomes simple. Most self-education projects fail because people chase methods. They focus on speed reading or note-taking apps or cramming. These are just surface-level techniques. They are distractions. To become dangerous, you must stop chasing the how-to and start questioning the why. You must shift your focus from gathering information to developing your inner judgment. This is a subtle but massive change. You stop being a student of systems, and you become a student of nature, of reality, and of truth. This is the foundation of deep study. It is a slow path, but it is the only path that leads to genuine, unbreakable knowledge. You are letting go of the quick fixes to embrace the principles of real mastery. Section 4. The Rakai Shift beyond reading. Now, let's look at the first concrete step. It is a concept called Rakai. In the Japanese tradition, this is not just about reading. It is about grasping an idea so completely that it becomes a part of you. Most people read to finish a book. They want to say, I read that. That is a surface-level activity. Rakai is the opposite. It requires you to slow down dramatically. Instead of rushing through 50 pages, you might spend an entire afternoon on just 3. You break the ideas into smaller parts. You turn them over in your mind. You visualize the concepts until you can see them clearly without the book in front of you. This is the difference between consuming information and digesting it. When you perform Rakai, you are not just a reader. You are an active participant in the creation of that knowledge. You close your eyes, you imagine the mechanism, and you test if it holds up under pressure. If you cannot explain an idea simply, you do not truly understand it yet. You are just repeating words you heard elsewhere. Real Rakai forces you to confront your own confusion. It exposes the gaps in your thinking that you usually ignore. This process is much slower, but it is far more powerful. You will finish less material, but you will understand more than those who read thousands of books. Every piece of content becomes a building block for your own original thought. Section 5. The art of explanation. You have slowed down. You have visualized the concepts. Now you must face the final test. This is where most people realize how little they actually know. I call this the test of simplicity. Imagine you are explaining the idea to someone who knows nothing about the subject. A child, perhaps, or a friend who works in a different field. If you cannot explain it clearly, you have not learned it. You have only memorized the jargon. This is a painful realization. It feels uncomfortable to admit that you don't know the core of an idea. But this discomfort is where true intelligence is forged. In the Japanese tradition, there is a deep respect for this clarity. It is not about using complex words to sound smart. It is about using simple words to reveal the truth. When you strip away the fancy language, you find the skeleton of the idea. If the skeleton is weak, the idea collapses. You must rebuild it until it stands on its own. This process of teaching, even if you are only teaching, yourself is the ultimate filter. It separates the pretenders from the masters. A master never hides behind complexity. A master makes the difficult look natural. When you can simplify an idea without losing its depth, you own that knowledge. It is no longer just something you read. It is now a part of your own mental toolkit. This is the moment your learning finally becomes permanent. Section 6, the Power of Ichigei Nyudo. Now we arrive at the most debated principle. Should you study everything, or should you focus on one thing? Modern advice tells you to be a generalist. It tells you to be well-rounded, to diversify, to keep your options open. But the Japanese path of mastery, known as Ichigei Nyudo, meaning the dedication to a single path, suggests the exact opposite. It means to enter deeply into one single art. When you choose to go deep, you stop being a collector of trivia. You stop dancing on the surface of 20 different subjects. You commit to one. You stay there for years. This is not limiting. It is liberating. When you go deep into one domain, you start to see the hidden structure of knowledge itself. You see how principles in economics, in history, and in philosophy are actually connected at the root. A person who has mastered one thing has effectively learned how to learn. But a person who has dabbled in 20 things has only learned how to dabble. They remain a permanent beginner. Why do so many people in the West fear specialization? Is it the fear of missing out, or is it a lack of patience to see the long-term results? I suspect many people choose to remain shallow because they are afraid of the silence that comes with deep, long-term work. They want the excitement of a new start, over and over again. But true power hides in the shadows of long-term commitment. By focusing on one domain, you develop a mental clarity that cannot be taught in a classroom. I am curious, do you personally prefer the life of a generalist or the path of a specialist? And what has been your experience with that choice? Leave a comment and share your journey. Section 7, the thinking document. Now we must discuss a practice that will change your mind forever. It is the practice of keeping a thinking document. Most people keep notebooks, right? They record facts, quotes, and summaries. But that is just a graveyard for information. A thinking document is completely different. It is not a record of what you have read. It is a record of what you have come to think. In the Japanese tradition of daily reflection, writing is not a way to store thoughts. It is the very engine of thinking itself. When you write your ideas down, you are forced to make them clear. You have to arrange them into sentences that make sense. And in that process, you discover your own contradictions. The vague ideas in your head that felt complete, they crumble the moment you try to write them down. But this is good. It shows you exactly where your understanding is weak. over months and years, this document becomes a living conversation with yourself. You can look back at your old thoughts and see how your mind has evolved. You spot patterns in your own logic that you would never see otherwise. This is not about being organized. It is about being honest with yourself. When you write for your own thinking, you are not performing for an audience. You are stripping away the ego and searching for the truth. It is a lonely practice, yes, but it creates a depth of thought that no amount of reading could ever provide. You are building a map of your own intellect, one sentence at a time. Section 8. The Jissen Imperative Living Knowledge. We have reached the point where most self-education projects quietly fail. It is the gap between theory and application. You might have read the books, you might have written your thoughts down in your document, but if that knowledge stays inside your head, it is still just dead weight. The Japanese tradition of mastery insists on one final requirement. It is called Jissen, the practice of bringing knowledge into lived experience. Think of a craftsman. He doesn't just read about wood, he feels the grain with his hands. He learns through the resistance of the material. You must do the same with your ideas. If you are studying philosophy, do not just memorize quotes. Use those principles to navigate a difficult decision in your daily life. If you are studying economics, make a prediction about a real market and see if you are right. If you are studying writing, publish your work and let the world respond. Knowledge is only real when it has an impact on the world around you. When you apply what you learn, the understanding moves from your abstract mind into your hands and your judgment. It becomes your instinct. This is the moment when learning becomes a part of who you are. Theoretical knowledge fades over time, no matter how much you study it. But applied knowledge becomes a permanent imprint on your character. The dangerously self-educated person is not just a brain in a jar. They are a person who lives what they know. The imprint of your learning must be visible in your life. If it is not, you are still only a student of ideas, not a master of reality. Section 9. The Resilience of the Amateur. There is a strange stigma attached to the word amateur. People think it means someone who is unskilled or unserious. But the root of the word comes from the Latin amare, which means to love. An amateur is literally someone who does something for the love of it. And this is exactly why the amateur is the most dangerous learner of all. Professionals are often constrained by their reputation, their salary, and the expectations of their peers. They cannot afford to fail, so they play it safe. They stick to what they already know. But the amateur? The amateur has nothing to lose. They can experiment wildly. They can take risks that would terrify a professional. When you learn as an amateur, you are driven by genuine curiosity, not by the pressure of a deadline or a paycheck. You are free to explore the edges of your field, to ask stupid questions, and to challenge established norms. This is how breakthroughs happen. The most important discoveries in history were often made by people who were technically amateurs in the fields they revolutionized. They did not have the burden of correct thinking. They were simply trying to solve a problem because they cared about the answer. Never apologize for being an amateur. Protect your amateur status with your life. It is the only space where you can be truly creative and truly bold. Keep your love for the work alive, and you will outlast any professional who has lost their spark. Section 10. The Unbreakable Cycle. We have reached the end of this journey, but in truth, this is only the beginning. You have learned to stop chasing shortcuts, to engage in deep Rakai reading, to simplify your understanding through teaching, to focus on a single path with Ichigei Nyudo, to keep a thinking document, to bring your knowledge into Jissen, and to guard your amateur spirit. But here is the final realization: this is not a linear path. It is a cycle. You will fail, you will lose your way, and you will fall back into old habits. That is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that you are moving deeper. Every time you return to these principles, you understand them on a new level. Mastery is not about reaching a final destination where you know everything. It is about becoming the kind of person who is always learning, always refining, and always evolving. You have stopped being a student of systems and have become a student of your own reality. The question is no longer, what should I learn next? But how can I deepen my connection to the truth? Carry these principles with you, not as a rigid set of rules, but as a compass for your life. The world is full of people looking for the easy way out. By choosing this difficult, slow, and honest path, you are already ahead of them. You are now equipped to navigate any challenge, solve any problem, and master any art you choose. The cycle of growth is yours to command. How will you apply this cycle to your life starting today? And what will be the first subject you commit to mastering under these new rules? Share your commitment in the comments below.